Have you ever had a moment where you felt like your entire life was on autopilot? Wake up, brush your teeth, rush to work, scroll on your phone, eat, sleep, repeat. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into years, and suddenly you're left wondering, was I actually living, or just following a script someone handed me? What if I told you that script didn't come from you? That your fears, your desires, even the beliefs you cling to, may have been planted long before you realized you were even choosing? Here's the chilling possibility. You might not be the dreamer of your life. You might just be a character in someone else's dream. The ancient whisper, Maya, the illusion. Thousands of years ago, Hindu sages spoke of Maya, the cosmic illusion that veils true reality. They said what we call the world is nothing more than a projection, like the flickering shadows on a cave wall. You see the shadows, you mistake them for reality, and you live your entire life chasing them. But if Maya is the illusion, then who or what is doing the projecting? Buddhist teachings go further. They compare waking life to a dream within a dream. You think you're awake because you're not lying in bed, but you're still entangled in a web of thoughts, habits, and stories that control how you see the world. In their view, enlightenment isn't about believing new ideas, it's about waking up from the dream itself. The modern Icke, simulation theory. Fast forward to today, and scientists are saying something eerily similar. Simulation theory suggests the universe might not be a physical thing at all. It could be a colossal video game. Think about it. Video games only render the environment you're looking at. Could our universe work the same way? Subatomic particles behave differently when observed versus unobserved. That's the infamous observer effect. It's as if the universe waits for you to look before deciding what's real. Now, here's the kicker. If this is a simulation, who are the programmers? Who set the rules? Who wrote the code that decides whether your life is full of abundance or scarcity, freedom or control? The hidden architects. Ancient mystics called them gods, demiurges, or archons. Modern thinkers call them elites, algorithms, or hidden systems of control. I call them the hidden architects of reality. They don't shout commands. They whisper suggestions. They don't chain your body. They script your beliefs. And the most dangerous part, you rarely notice. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, your attention is hijacked. Notifications, headlines, trends, all designed not just to entertain, but to program. Each click reinforces a pattern. Each scroll tightens the web. You believe you're freely choosing, but in truth, you're following lines of code written long before you got here. Everyday evidence of the dream. Ever notice how routines feel too perfect? Your train is always exactly 2 minutes late. Your office small talk repeats the same phrases. Ads for things you thought about yesterday magically appear in your feed. You brush it off as coincidence. But what if they're not coincidences at all? What if they're signs of the script playing out? Tiny ripples in the dream, reminding you that reality is more structured than you think. Think of Patricia, a typical office worker. Every morning she bought coffee from the same shop. Every day, the line had exactly 3 people. Every week, her colleagues echoed her private worries as if reading from her diary. It wasn't until she started writing these glitches down that she realized her life wasn't as random as she thought. It was patterned, orchestrated. And once you spot the pattern, you can't unsee it. Why this matters? If we are inside someone else's dream, then you face 2 choices. Keep playing the role you were handed, living on autopilot, or learn to wake up inside the dream. That second option, that's called lucid living. Just like lucid dreaming, where you realize you're in a dream and suddenly take control, lucid living means realizing your reality is scripted and learning how to edit the script. But before we can talk about editing, we need to understand the architects themselves. Who are they? What tools do they use? And why do they need you to stay asleep? That's exactly what we'll uncover in the next part. who builds the dream from temple priests to algorithms. Remember that image of sleeping giants dreaming tiny worlds? Let's step closer to the control room. Who sits at the console? Who chooses the settings? The answer isn't simple, and that's the point. The architects of your reality wear many faces: priests and prophets, kings and corporations, code and culture. Together, they form a distributed intelligence whose job is efficiency. Keep the system stable, predictable, and profitable. Old names, same playbook. Ancient cultures gave these forces names because they saw their effects. The Gnostics called the demiurge a false creator, a craftsman who makes a convincing copy of reality to keep souls distracted. In many mythologies, priests and secret orders curated knowledge: what you learned, what you celebrated, what was forbidden. Empires rewrote histories and burned books to align the collective story with their rule. Why does this matter? Because storytelling is power. If you control the story, who is a villain, who is a hero, what counts as success, you shape what people desire, fear, and defend. That's the core method of every architect since cities first formed around temples. The modern control suite, media, markets, and algorithms. Fast forward to today, and the toolbox is sleeker, faster, and infinitely more precise. The modern architects don't need gallows or edicts. They press keys. Algorithms, these invisible gatekeepers, decide which ideas become huge and which stay small. They reward outrage and repetition because those keep eyeballs glued to the screen. Advertising, it's not about selling shoes anymore. It's about selling identity, a curated version of who you should be. Finance and institutions, they write the rules for risk, reward, and scarcity, shaping what's possible for most people. Put together, they form a control suite that tunes incentive structures. Want people to consume more? Make boredom painful and shopping feel like identity repair. Want distraction? Make dopamine cheap and attention fragmented. How they tune you: repetition, fear, and norms. If you were a system architect, you'd prioritize 3 levers: repeatability, fear, and normalization. Repetition: humans learn patterns. Repeat a message enough, and it becomes a default setting. Think of how political talking points or brand slogans lodge into your head. Repeat a narrative for decades and entire generations accept it as common sense. Fear collapses imagination, threatens survival or security, and most people stop asking what if and start doing whatever reduces immediate risk. The architects weaponize fear through crisis loops, manufacture urgency, push one solution, normalize compliance. Normalization make the scripted behavior ordinary. When everyone behaves the same way, outliers become suspect. Social proof locks the script into place. If they all believe it, it must be true. Together, these levers turn individual curiosity into collective autopilot. The quiet machinery of influence. Influence isn't always loud. Most of the heavy lifting is subtle, tiny nudges, default options, micro rewards. Consider onboarding screens, the default privacy settings, the pre-ticked boxes, the recommended friends. Each nudge shapes your default narrative, what you accept without thinking. Even language is an instrument. Words like safety, patriotism, or science become anchors. Attach them to a policy or product, and people instinctively line up. Control the vocabulary, and you steer the moral compass. And then there's education, the slow, generational shaping of attention. What kids learn in school about history, economics, and civics becomes the scaffolding of their plausible life choices. Compartmentalize knowledge, emphasize certain heroes, and erase others. You create generations that think inside the architect's frame. Why you feel small? The system's optimization. Systems optimize for what matters to them. For corporations, it's engagement and profit. For states, It's stability and control. For cultural gatekeepers, it's continuity. What does this mean for you? It means most social systems are designed to make people predictable. Not because designers hate freedom, they often don't think about it at all, but because predictability reduces friction. Imagine a factory where every worker follows the exact same rhythm. Production is smooth, costs are low. Now imagine a society where everyone improvises wildly beautiful, chaotic, but inefficient for large-scale coordination. The architects prefer the factory-like society because it scales. That's the pragmatic heart of the dream. The system isn't evil because it exists. It's efficient by design. The problem is when efficiency trumps human flourishing and the choices available to you are narrowed into templates, where the architects falter. Here's the good news. Systems break when patterns are disrupted. Architects rely on two assumptions: predictability and opacity. Predictability fails when too many people act unpredictably. A handful of micro-chaos acts, choosing a different commute, learning an unexpected skill, asking a taboo question creates local turbulence. If enough people do it, the turbulence coalesces into a wave. Opacity fails when stories leak. Once enough people notice the seams, the ads that match thoughts, the repetitive headlines, the emotional manipulation, the legitimacy of the control suite erodes. That's what whistleblowers, independent media, and viral skeptic voices do. They expose protocols, and exposure breeds doubt. Where this leads. So if the architects are real, and if modern systems echo ancient methods, what's the map forward? Understanding the architecture is neither nihilism nor paranoia. It's reconnaissance. It's seeing the scaffolding so you can climb it differently or remove it where it robs you of agency. In Part 3, we'll pivot from diagnosis to strategy. We'll build a toolkit to pierce the dream, habits that restore attention, experiments that break predictability, and mindset shifts that turn you from a passive character into an active co-author. We'll also talk about ethics, how not to turn wakefulness into another dogma. Ready to learn how to edit the script? How to wake up practical tools to edit your script. So you've seen the control room. You've named the architects and watched the gears that keep the dream running smoothly. Now comes the part that matters most. What do you do about it? Waking up doesn't require conspiracy fever or grand revolutions. It begins with small, skillful acts, repeated enough to change the software that runs your life. This is Part 3, the toolkit. Real, actionable methods to reclaim attention, break patterns, and become a co-author of your reality. These aren't metaphors only, they're practices you can test tomorrow. The Reality Journal Pattern Recognition as Power. Why it works. Architects depend on invisibility. The moment patterns become visible, control loses its lightning-fast efficacy. How to do it. For 21 days, carry a small notebook or a notes app labeled Reality Journal. Each evening write 3 things: one repeated coincidence or glitch you noticed, the same ad, repeated phrase, uncanny repeat in social interactions, one habit you performed without thinking, what triggered it, one moment you felt manipulated or overly reactive, what preceded it. After a week, scan the list for repeats. Patterns will emerge: emotional triggers, habitual loops, attention leaks. What changes? You stop being the passive subject of influence and become a detective. Once you can name the pattern, you can design an experiment to interrupt it. Micro-chaos protocol, small surprises that crack predictability. Why it works. Systems optimize around predictability. Predictability collapses possibility. Micro-chaos creates computational friction for the architects. How to do it. Choose 3 daily anchors. Morning, commute, evening for each. Perform one small deviation for 7 days. Take a new route to work one day this week. Order a meal you've never tried. Turn off your phone an hour earlier and read a page of something unfamiliar. Speak to a stranger about something curious, not transactional. Track the emotional charge. Discomfort is the system's alarm. Let it be a signal you've touched a script. What changes? You train your nervous system to tolerate unpredictability. The more you tolerate, the more novelty you can create, and novelty is the language of freedom. Attention training from scattered to sovereign. Why it works? Attention is the currency of the architects. Whoever controls attention controls outcomes. Regain it, and you regain choice. How to do it? Practice 2 daily attention sprints, 10-15 minutes each. Sit with a timer and a single object. Breath, candle flame, ambient sound, count breaths or note sensations. If your mind wanders, gently return. A focused reading sprint. Read a short essay or dense paragraph. Then summarize it aloud in 1 sentence. Complement with a weekly deep focus block of 60-90 minutes for creative work, no notifications, no browser tabs other than the task. What changes? You rebuild the muscle of sustained attention. Decisions slow down. Choices become deliberate rather than reactive. The social firewall curate your feed, not just your contacts. Why it works? Influence is social before it's technical. Your feed is a mirror and a mold. How to do it? For 14 days, perform a feed triage. Unfollow or mute accounts that trigger reactive emotion more than curiosity. Follow 3 creators who model independence of thought, practical skill, or deep curiosity. Set up timers for the platforms that fragment your attention. Replace 30 minutes of passive scrolling with 15 minutes of active skill building. Language app, puzzle, music practice. What changes? Your social reality will begin to shift. Norms change as your tribe's conversation changes. The ethics of waking don't replace one script with another. Waking up has a moral dimension. Awareness can easily become an identity badge or a justification for contempt. Here are guardrails. Avoid nihilism. Noticing manipulation isn't a license to withdraw from responsibility. Use awareness to improve your life and others. Practice humility. You were built by culture, biology, and circumstance. Respect the complexity of others' choices. Don't weaponize curiosity. Skepticism is good. Paranoia is costly. Test claims. Ask for evidence. Remain open to revision. Waking isn't about hating the dream or the dreamer. It's about choosing which scenes you want to write going forward. A 7-day wake-up challenge. Practical starter plan. Day 1, start a reality journal. Write tonight's 3 entries. Day 2, micro chaos. Take a new route to somewhere routine. Day 3, attention sprint. 2 10-minute sessions. Day 4, feed triage. Unfollow 5 accounts that drain you. Follow 2 that inspire. Day 5, micro chaos. Do 1 awkward, kind thing for a stranger. Day 6, deep focus block. 60 minutes on a creative or growth task. Day 7, review your journal. Note 1 pattern to disrupt next week. Declare a tiny ritual that belongs only to you. Do this week by week. Small wins compound. Real-life case, the barista who stopped acting. A quick story, a barista named Ria kept feeling robotic. Every day, the same smiles, same jokes, same script. She started a reality journal. She noticed she imitated customers' language to earn better tips. She paused, tried micro chaos, a genuine odd compliment to one customer, and watched the conversation open up. Weeks later, she switched her morning routine, learned audio editing in the evenings, and launched a small podcast. Her life didn't explode into rebellion, it expanded into choice. That's the point. Wakefulness creates options. Final thought, your attention is the original rebellion. The architects are powerful, not because they're unbeatable, but because they rely on your unawareness. The original rebellion is simple and quietly radical. Attention turned inward, and then outward, choosing instead of defaulting. This isn't about escaping reality, it's about editing it with intention. When you question a habit, when you choose surprise, when you sustain focus long enough to notice the seams, you have begun the work of unmaking the dream that no longer serves you. If you're ready, here's a small next step. Pick one tool from this and do it today. Log it in your reality journal and come back in 7 days to see what changed.